This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So, the first thing I want to say is I didn't put times on this agenda like I did last time, because I'm hoping to keep learning about how long each update takes and make those times make more sense. So that's still a work in progress for me. And it might not end up being something I do all the time, but just something I'm thinking about for how to organize the agenda better. The thing I mostly wanted to, I know Margie already knows, but I'd hope she would be here. I just want to update everybody that Ted is not going to work his half plot this season. And so new Mark, is going to tend to it for the rest of the season. So if you see Mark L over there,
one of the Mark L's.
Oh yeah, you're both Mark L's. Dang it. Okay. So we're gonna stick with new Mark and
New
current
Mark. Yeah, new Mark.
I don't want. We're not doing old Mark. That's not it. So we gotta figure out a better.
Old Mark is
Old.
We're not doing old Mark, but new Mark. I think you're just Mark. Is what I was gonna go with. And anyways, new Mark is helping. So Norman, I forgot to email you, but since you're here, if you see new Mark, just say hi to him, and he's going to share that plot with you. Great. So yeah.
I won't say what the hell are you doing here.
Yeah, don't say what the hell are you doing. He's just going to plant flowers. It's his big plan, so it'll just be really nice.
He might be Lithuanian.
Yeah.
And then okay, cool. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and let's the minutes from last month. I'm going to move to approve those minutes from the month of June. Does anyone second the motion?
Second.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. Perfect. So the minutes are accepted. Oh, I forgot. Is there any public comment zone, anything I need to add to the agenda, any comments or like things that people want to share right now? Great. Okay, so Ted sent me the treasurer's report. I sent them to you guys, the two budget reports or statement of positions, financial position. So reviewing okay, great. Ted's here. Oh my God, I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah, look him.
Oh, good.
Ted. I admitted him. Where'd he go?
Oof.
Wow, that was crazy. Maybe he'll try again. My link wasn't really working also, or I don't know if it's because it's raining, the Wi-Fi of Easthampton isn't functioning. I assume Ted will try again. So I'm gonna wait and we'll do operations right now, if that's okay.
You might hear a James Bond movie in the background. My son is watching it, and the car chase scene hasn't stopped for like 20 minutes. Usually it's something Bond is at a bar having a drink and have a conversation, and it's not happening. So if you hear squealing tires, don't worry.
Just think something crazy is happening outside your house.
Party.
Hi, Margie. Hey,
Margie.
Margie's here.
So sorry I missed the last couple of meetings. And it's good to see y'all again.
Good to see you, Frank.
I I'm leaving town tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to do a weed inspection before I leave, and I'm just getting over COVID. So, yeah, this has been an interesting summer, to say the least. If you get this version, get something for sore throats. That's the hallmark of this one. It is. It persists for days. But I was doing a walk around, and it appears to me that there are already some I gave up plots. I don't know, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to craft up an email and try and get it out. Maybe for you, Margie, if you could send it out, and just to tell people to really start working on the weeds in their plots, and that there'll be an inspection when I get back. I think I'm not quite sure why, but a couple of the people who I had spoken to as I was up there working seemed like they may have been new at it, and I think maybe they didn't realize how big a 20 by 20 plot is, and so part that's cultivated is okay, but the rest of it is not.
Yeah.
And then there are a couple of plots that are they're not overrun or anything, but there's not really anything growing there either, which I think is odd. And that's some kind of conversation we can have later. I mean, if you're going to have a plot, you should be cultivating it. It's in some form or fashion. And I was up weeding today. The weeds they're out of control. So, and with the heat and more of this type of rain today, it's just going to get worse. So I'll craft an email kind of coaxing people to work on that. The mowing has been.
Would you, really quick with that, if you don't have time to craft the email, can you let me know? So that way.
And I mean, I'm going to be on a flight to Brazil. I'm going to have plenty of time to craft something, and
Okay.
if I don't do it before I leave town.
I'll
Okay.
also send something out tonight after the meeting. I was planning on sending an email because right across from Noah, C7, I think it's B7, it's completely overgrown. And
Yeah, I don't even think that person has done anything. If I'm not mistaken, it was B7, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
Nicole.
noticed that too. I was
Yeah, that's Nicole's.
oh.
Yeah,
That
like
is
I
Nicole.
don't think she started anything. And then down in B12, B12, Jim Burwell's is looking kind of rough too.
Okay.
And
Can
then
I ask, when are you going to be back?
I'll be back.
Is there,
I'll be arriving the morning of the 17th.
okay.
I'll be home on the 17th.
Do you feel like, are you feeling like any urgency to do a weed inspection before then? Or like, should I make sure and like reach out to some gardeners and just say, hey, we noticed? Or do you think it just an all gardeners email will help kind of, I think I just worry sometimes the people who are overwhelmed might not know that these all gardening emails are kind of like for them.
Yeah.
well, I can send
Both?
one out in general, and then we can send specific ones out
Okay.
to individual gardeners.
I think that's a good idea. And I mean, I'm probably going to go up there in the morning. I don't have to be down at JFK until like 4 in the afternoon. So I'm going to go up in the morning and water. What I'll try and get down the aisles and just I'll mark, because I got a map printed out, and I'll at least put a check on the ones that are just totally out of control. And then we can, if we want to send an email to them specifically, if somebody else could do that, that would be awesome.
If you have time, the reason I'm wondering, if you have time to get that done by tomorrow, I'm tempted to send those gardeners an email and just say, come to the workday Sunday. We will help you reset your plot, or like something like that, to be like, we will all be there.
It would take the whole work party to do one of them.
Which I think, because once it gets that bad, I think that's how people feel. And I do feel like it's amazing how much when people show up, we can get done. It's really impressive.
I mean, I think with that one at B7, I would just walk it, and if there's no stones or anything else, just mow it. And then that might be an easier way to do it. But, you know, we'll see if she responds, and then we'll
Awesome.
and then we can go from there. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead when I send my reminder just for everyone. So Frank, you're going to draft an email that Margie's going to send to everybody as a reminder to work on getting it. Weed inspections coming. Keep that in mind. And then I'm going to, when I remind everyone about the workday Sunday, send an email to B12, which is Jen Burwell, and B7, which is Nicole. Those are at least the two right up the top.
B6 also, I mean, there's pieces that are weeded, but I don't think people realize that they need to weed all around the plots too.
Oh my God, B6, Ryan, Ryan, that's you. Oh shit. And now I said, oh shit, on the public record.
The mower can't get right up to the plot all the time, so people need to check like within a foot or two of their garden and make sure the weeds are under control. Plus, yesterday I pulled out a load of ragweed, and I'm going to send out those photos again of ragweed and thistle. And also right next to me and next to you, Frank, in D7, those people also, that garden needs to be attended to, and there was a lot of thistle growing there, which I pulled out yesterday.
Which one, Margie?
D7.
D7, right next to you and me.
You said D7?
Yeah, D7.
Yeah.
D7, I saw Robin out there quite a bit at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I haven't seen her in.
But I haven't seen her in a minute.
While.
But I have not been out there. I've been my plot will probably also be noted for thistle development. So
One thing, Frank, I need to send this email tonight because the next few days I'm taking a break from the computer because of my eyes.
Okay.
And I can't do this from my phone, but I don't mind just crafting, putting together an email. You don't need to do that for tonight.
If you want to do the general one, then that'll free me up. Because I mean, depending on the amount of light here, I may end up going back up to the garden this evening, and then I could just walk the plots then and pick out the ones that need to really be encouraged. Let's put it that way.
That's fine.
Ryan put in the message there that she did some weeding today. So
Yeah.
I feel like classically the weed inspection does plant the fear deeply in me of how I'm not doing enough. So Ryan, you did great. You didn't even need the reminder. But I guess I just want to make it super clear, Frank, if you end up coming up with a list of individuals and you don't have time to email them, let me know the individuals and I will reach out to them. I just don't want to have like these individuals getting 1,000 emails if like you've already talked to them. Yeah. So okay, cool.
I probably won't have time to do that. Just consider what we're trying to get done before we leave.
Awesome.
Other thing, I noticed just recently, you know how you're like, hey, where'd that go? Does anybody know where the little mantis tiller went that was in the shed?
No idea.
Yeah, it's not there, and I don't know where it went. So
when was the last time anybody saw it?
I don't know. See, that's where I'm like, I was looking for it about a month ago, because I was thinking, well, I'll take it up there to Flurry and have them, do a nice checkup on it, because there's some, you know, we're talking about people with the edges of plots need to be weeded, but there's plots that their plot's been taken over by the corridor. It's all grass and it needs to be reclaimed, and that's what I want to use that mantis for, and now it's not there. So maybe if we can't find it, we could send an email out and go, hey, did somebody borrow it or whatever? But yeah, that's love to know where it is. Let's see,
Tiller missing.
Yeah, the mantis tiller.
Margie, I think you your video shorted out there, but just for the
It's going in and out. I just tried to reload.
yeah, no worries. I just, if you are intending to send the meeting notes out, if you're losing service, we can talk about this at the end, but for your notes, for if you are going to send the meeting notes out at the end of the meeting, the mantis tiller is missing from the shed. So somebody borrowed it. They just asked them to return it.
And then last but not least is mowing. I've been doing some mowing and Caitlin's been doing mowing. I have not been in touch with Steve Coltman. I know he and Cheryl are just putting their lots of sleep for the summer. But I wanted to see if maybe he could do a little bit of mowing too. I mean, he's still got a plot, and
Right.
and I had planned to mow like 4 days ago, and then ended up getting COVID, so that put that on the sideline. So I need to get a good mowing crew together because it's mainly me and Caitlin have been doing a lot of it. If somebody else has, they haven't told me, which I'd love to know.
I think the only other person I know other than Caitlin is Amy did a little bit.
You did so.
Yeah. Margie? Margie, did you raise your hand or did the video? I think you did. I think frozen. Well, for mowing, Frank, if you want well, I guess just, do you feel like you at least have it lined up for somebody? Did you reach to, do you have it organized for while you're gone?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Caitlin and just see if she can cover while I'm gone. And then when I get back, I'll be able to mow. And my son will come up, and Jasara still mows too, so she can do that. It's just she's going to be with me, so that I can take care of when I get back. But yeah, I'll get a hold of Caitlin and see if she can cover while I'm out.
If you want to email Amy as well, I know Amy was eager to help.
Okay.
And then I will stress it at the work day that if anyone wants to mow while you're gone or in general, to get in contact with you or coordinate with Caitlin while you're gone, maybe.
Yeah, because it's the main corridors are fine. When Caitlin mowed, and then I went back and mowed again, and especially all the way at the bottom, and tried to reclaim some area down there because the rabbits are a problem down in that part of the garden. And anytime we can create a better kill zone for the owls, I'm all for it. The main corridor is fine. If somebody wants to mow, they could mow up top, along the road, because it's getting a little shaggy. All right, so Amy and Caitlin. Okay.
And that I just don't want you to feel like the mowing has to fall directly on you having to do it. If we can help organize a better crew schedule.
Yeah.
That is like, it's a lot of work to expect you to do as often as it happens, like, as often as the grass grows. So,
and it grows fast this time of year.
It does. All right.
Yeah, and then Mark, I don't know about if you got anything to add. I mean, I haven't heard any complaints or anything about hoses recently. So
well, Christine brought it to my attention that there's a hose down toward the end of the garden that has become defective, and I haven't had a chance to inspect, but I will take a look soon. We had that whole issue around the nozzles, and nobody has come forward. One person told me that she didn't need it anymore, and I forget who the other person was. So we still have a couple of nozzles available. Tool shed is okay. There's a lot of stuff in there. I don't know who the tomato stakes belong to. Are we under the impression that people feel free to store stuff in the shed that is personal? Is that an agreed
No.
upon
Yeah, that's not
assumption?
usually how it works. So
Okay.
No, I
'cause
feel like anything in the shed becomes community.
Common.
It's a donation to the community. So
Okay, so maybe that's what those tomato stakes are. I just was wondering.
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so. They're really nice though.
our break room.
Oh
at
no, they're
work-
not steaks. Oh my God,
No.
they're for the signs. They're for the signs. That's
Yeah,
what I just
yeah.
realized. They're Ryan. That's what's like.
Oh, oh,
Like they're
boy, I
so
was-
nice. I'm like, oh, duh.
They're
Okay.
the engineering steak, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're for the plot signs, which hopefully we'll work on Sunday, and then they'll all be out there.
okay. Well, yeah,
I,
I think we got enough tools basically, but if anybody else thinks we're missing something, they should speak up.
I'm
But, oh, by the way, just one other thing, Frank.
Yeah.
Somebody left a key in the shed with a little green tag on it. If anybody knows whose that is, and I just threw it in my car because, it was just sitting there. And right. And also, other thing is, I've noticed come to the garden a couple of times, and water has been left on, and nobody's there. So, just make a note. That's all.
Yeah, I went up there the other day and the water was still on. I mean, we can remind people. There are people who walk up the road and walk their dogs and water their dogs there, and maybe might not be one of us too.
Okay.
Yeah, but it probably is, so. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that in the past. Brian just put a message up. I think it was a nozzle near B5. Is that correct?
She would like a nozzle?
No, it's acting up.
Oh, okay. So probably need a replacement. Is that a reasonable assumption, Ryan?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm having a little trouble with managing this on my phone. Yeah, it was not working at all, and then it was working, and then today it was just kind of like it was kind of working, but it was kind of spraying all over the place, and I was trying to mess with it, and it's quite possible there's just something a little loose that could be easily fixed, but I was not succeeding. So I was able to water. That's the hose I mostly use, but it was kind of spraying everywhere in a
Leaking.
wacky way. So
All right, we'll take a look, and if it needs to be replaced, we'll do it.
thanks.
I don't really have anything else. I know down the road for a work party, and it's not going to be this summer probably, but we need to tag all of the multi-floor rose plants that are popping up around the borders of the garden, and we need to get rid of them. I'll get some kind of tape that we can tie on to mark them, and then we'll just have to decide at what point. Because they're a problem, because once they get big, they become a rabbit haven.
What are they called, Frank? I can put it in email.
Yeah, it's multiflora rose. It's an invasive rose. They're beautiful when they bloom, but they're really hard. I mean, you have to prune them back severely before and then you got to dig them out by the roots. It requires shovels and elbow grease. Yeah, they got rid of a lot of them in the abandoned orchard next door to us. There's some states where it's illegal to let it grow on your property, and Virginia is one of them. It's a real pain in the ass. Not as bad as
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no. So, but really, this is not a big deal right now. It's nothing we need to mess over. It's just something that I want to keep on the horizon, because we should get rid of them as soon as we can. We have more pressing things at the moment, though.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I do just want to stress, please do not hesitate if you're going to miss a meeting. Just shoot me an email and say so. And then also don't hesitate if the mowing stuff is so overwhelming to me personally, so I don't know if I'm projecting that, but if you need help getting people to come and do it, I love Caitlin so much. I do fear has been putting so much spare time into the garden, and I don't want her to burn out. So, and same with you, honestly. So I just want to spread that work around.
Sarah, Caitlin feels the same way about you. She doesn't want you to
I
burn
know
out.
we're worried about each other all the time. It's so fun. It's great. Okay, awesome. And then I'm gonna say, yeah, I have a section for the mulch, so we won't talk about that there. Okay, awesome. Thank you, operations. I'm gonna go back to treasurer's report because Ted was able to get on the meeting.
Yay, Ted.
Yay,
Hey,
Ted.
Ted.
How's everybody?
Yeah,
Mr.
all
right.
Weeds. You didn't get B8. Nor, just to let you know, Norman helped me get all my grow bags out of the raised beds. There are weeds still in the raised beds, but anybody who wants to use them, I am not going to be able to get up there regularly to use them this season.
Oh,
And I'll repeat
sorry, I
that,
announced
this
this
season.
before you were on the call. Mark, not Mark, but new Mark.
New Mark.
He's gonna plant flowers in those beds. So
Oh,
he's on it and he's so
Mark
excited.
Light Hammer?
fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Light hammer.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the treasurer's reports, we're in good shape. The only thing, we haven't gotten the bill in yet from Obashan, at least it has been processed yet. So on the June report, that's why I just say that's, there, I guess, Sarah, you had bought some keys, and Mark had gotten the nozzles and a rake, and that's what that amount is for. Until I get it processed by the city, I usually don't put it in as being actually spent. So I expect it's probably going to happen this month. The only thing I'm concerned about now is Broadbrook. We are down to only $65. We had a $250 charge. Expected it last year. Well, it came through this year. And I think we should replenish that purchase order. Put another $300 in because I expect that we will have that charge again. And the same thing with Fleury outdoor power equipment. We only
Yes.
have $8 left. So you can't do anything unless it's under $8 until we approve it, and I'll have to be able to get down there. And I'm asking for $300 because we tend to spend close to that on an annual basis at Fleury Outdoor.
And Ted, that was that last bill, that was for the lawnmower and just one of the string trimmers. I didn't want to take them both because in case we needed one. So the other one still hasn't been serviced, and I was going to bring it up. We're going to need more money in there just for the other string trimmer this season.
Have the rates all gone up, guys? Is that what's going on?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going up.
Oh, we should probably put $400 in then into the purchase order.
Okay.
300 for Broadbrook and 400 for Fleury Outdoor. And that should at least have us set to handle what seems to be a regular expenditure.
Yeah, because other than the trimmer for the other trimmer at Fleury, I don't see any other reason to spend money there this year. Knock on
Yeah.
wood.
Okay, well.
Sarah,
Sarah, we can't hear you.
You're
Muted. I
muted.
mean, sorry, we don't have any other projects this summer, I don't think. So that I know of that are like big projects. So I feel like the budget going towards those things will be fine.
Yeah, it's not an expenditure. I'm just asking to transfer it from the reserve into the actual purchase order because that's what the when the bill comes in, that's what we need to have money in there or they can't pay the bill.
All right, well, I move that we move $300 from the reserve to Broadbrook Landscaping and Irrigation, and how much from the reserve to Flurry power equipment?
Let's do 400. That
Four-
should take care of the rest of this year and get us in good position for next year.
All right, and to move $400 from the reserve into the Flurry's outdoor power equipment. Does anyone second the motion? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Great. So that is moved. So I guess also am I good to I propose a motion to move forward with the oh my gosh, statement of financial position for the month of May and the month of June. Does anyone second the motion? Second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, awesome. Any other updates, Ted?
Nothing right now.
Okay. All right, cool. So next is Margie with the outreach report.
I was just checking on the drive to see if I missed anything, but I don't think there's anything new.
Well, I just wanted it to be in the notes because I don't know if we did say this just over email or if we did talk about it last meeting. But plots with substitutions, we did just get in the notes. Mark is helping Ted. And then the only other plot that's dormant for the season is Cheryl's.
Yeah.
And that is plot number C10 and D10. Okay. So that should be on the.
Okay, they covered theirs.
Yes.
I don't think there's any others, but I've just really become confused because now we're working from 2 maps. Sarah, I emailed you about this. And I always use my map because I have a system. I use different colors to remind me of who's new and who's not new and who's paid. And then we have the map that you put on, and it doesn't always get, let me call it synchronized. I don't always get the information from your map because I don't know why. And I felt a little silly because I come to this meeting not knowing what I should know.
Yeah, well, my hope is because you emailed me about this, and my hope is that the meetings shouldn't ever be a moment of anyone feeling blindsided. My hope is that the meetings are the one time a month we can all exchange updates about what's happened. So I'm very scattered. I have too much on my plate. Everyone knows this. So after I show someone a plot, I'm not good about getting back to my computer and updating it right then. So usually I try to collect my thoughts before meetings, which is why I usually don't update it. And I want to be better about updating. These things I tell you at the meeting are not things you should know. They're things I'm letting you know. But also from now on, which I put in the email,
read your last email, Sarah.
Great. Yeah, no worries. So just for the notes as well, because the more documentation, the better. I am gonna start I am going to start updating. I guess I don't want to update your map if you have a system. So if someone makes a change, I think I'll just email you their plot number and what the change is, and then you can update it that way. And then and I'll just, the green map is more for me to just use when I'm out there figuring out what plot number is what plot number.
Yeah, but it's also great that you emailed me that you use that to indicate the pathways, and that's great.
Yeah, that's the only reason I made it, was after the confusion with the paths.
And I also, it used to be that anyone who knew someone who was interested, they would give them my email address or tell them to go to the website. People would contact me, and I felt like I had it under control. But now there's people coming in and talking to other people, and then they get back to you, and I feel like it kind of slips through my fingers, and I don't have that control over my own job anymore. So I think that would be a really good solution. Everybody just contact me when there's someone interested, or you could give me their email or give them my email address, and it's run really smoothly that way for years.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I always send people to you. I think the slip ups that it's like just reiterating the email, so don't even worry about reading it, is when people have contacted me when we're out in the garden to say, I'm moving, like that work day with the thistle plot, they were like, Mark realized he felt capable of handling a full 20 by 20, so he shifted to that. And same with Charlotte. And then
so Mark, is there more than one Mark?
Yes, there's Mark, the new Mark.
Lighthammer or something like that?
Yes, so he's taken over a full 20 by 20 thistle plot.
See that like that? I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
It's just because I updated the map and I haven't emailed you since dealing with it in person.
Okay, and what you can do, Sarah, to take a little bit of load off your shoulders when people come to you with that, you can say, could you please send Margie an email?
Yes, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I have been doing that. I haven't felt like I haven't forwarded you a gardener who has come forward with a plot. The thistle in particular was weird when we laid out. We had the meeting where we decided that it didn't make sense for you to email those gardeners. So I emailed them and then I got those plots set up.
Okay, what I'm saying is that you don't have to always send the email. You can ask the individual gardeners to shoot me an email.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I do that.
Several gardeners who went and got a plot and they never told me.
Can I ask specifically which gardeners?
I don't remember. It's happened a couple of times this season. And
I think the one that happened this season was at the opening workday. You were there and we realized, or the meeting before the opening workday, we realized there was an open plot, which then at the opening workday showed to Lena and Julia. And they moved off of their thistle plot to D9, and I forgot to write that down. And then we didn't talk about it last meeting.
Well, I'm going to put in the notes that if anybody makes any changes, to contact me.
Sure.
And then I can put out an email to the whole committee so everybody knows. Because otherwise I lose the information. It's like, I'm also a little overwhelmed, and I'm thinking I need to make some changes in my life because it's getting harder to keep up with everything. So I would like to go back to the system where everybody who made a plot change or got a new plot, they contacted me. They didn't rely on you to contact me. So I'll put that in the notes.
I want to move forward from this, but I cannot stress enough. No one has made a plot change this season that I've not forwarded to you unless it was a thistle plot.
Also new plots. It was new gardeners.
Yes.
I have more, and I want,
There has been the only new gardeners I've learned anything about have been from you forwarding me their names. Yara
Yeah.
Persing,
and then they went
you
out.
gave me her information.
Yes.
And then Johanna Walker, you gave me her information to show her a plot. Those are the two new gardeners. And they worked through you, and then
I'm
you
talking about
forwarded me
earlier
their
in the
information.
season. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. I don't want to keep
Okay,
taking.
I just want to know specific examples so that I can figure out what I did.
Beginning of the season
Otherwise,
I don't remember, but I just remember
Okay.
emailing people saying, "So, did you meet with Sarah? Did you get a plot?" And they said, "Oh yeah, I did, but I don't remember the number." And
yes,
then I
so that's on
emailed
me
you.
for not, yeah, so that's on me for just not being on top of it enough to email you the plot numbers. But rest assured, everyone is,
Wait, but what I'm saying is you shouldn't have to do that. They should do that. They should email me when they get a plot number, and I'm going to put that in the notes.
okay, great. So you want me to have the gardeners email you?
That's how it's been for all the years, and suddenly it's not happening. And I think you just have too much. You're doing too much
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah, sorry, that is the part I'm not understanding, is that your expectation is for the new gardeners to email you their plot number, which is perfectly fine.
That's all I need to say.
Perfect. Just for the record, and so everyone knows, the thistle plot updates are that D1, half of it, a 10 by 20 portion, is being worked by Yara Persing, and then the half of D2 is by another 10 by 20 is Johanna Walker. And the other portions of that are going to be where the picnic tables are moved. But those are the two new gardeners that we have.
Could you repeat those two names once more?
Yeah. Yara, it's Y-A-R, sorry, Y-A-R-A-R-A, Yahara Persing, and Johanna Walker.
Now, can you also please repeat the plot numbers that they're in?
Yeah, we didn't, so it would technically be D1, but it's half of it, so it's technically D1B and D1D is Yara.
So Yara has D1, she's in D1?
Yes.
And Joanne is also in D1?
D2.
Okay, D2. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys for being patient while the miscommunication abounds. But I'm grateful to have it figured out. And we do have a plot master list on the drive. There's the contact list that lists, sorry, Stephen just asked, don't we have a plot master list on our Google Drive? Yes. There is the master list that has everyone's email addresses and their plot numbers on it. And there's also Margie's map, where she keeps updated who's gone where. And then there's also the green and yellow map that shows where the common paths are versus the paths that have just appeared over time. And I've used that one because I try to have that be available for the gardeners to know who's in what plot, but as is made evident, it's not always as up to date as Margie's is. All right, great. Any other operations cues? Great. All right, so the donation garden, Stephen, do you have any updates there?
None.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I'm assuming that things should be ready pretty soon. But no one's contacted me.
Great. Are you gonna just send out an email to when you're gonna start using the coolers, or
Well, yeah, I mean, we've always kind of, I mean, I shouldn't say we always, but last few years, it's pretty much been like July 1st.
which is where we're at. So yeah, I'm prepared to make a delivery on Monday and or Wednesday. I'll make sure that it's there.
Great. All right, then moving on. The pollinator garden, Karen is not here. So I assume there's nothing to say there. If I'm hoping she'll give me an update if we need to do some work for her on Sunday. Volunteer hours, Deb's updates were that a few people have filled it out, not a lot. So I'm gonna go through and tell her what people have verbally told me for their volunteer hours and who's come to work days, and then we can see who's left and who needs to be emailed, basically. All right, and then the governance updates are, we met on Sunday, and everyone knows this. I sent the email with some of the ideas we come up with for committee member expectations. And I want to open this up for discussion. The first thing I wanted to note is that it is clear to me that the one of the major issues is tone. So redrafting it in a different tone. And I'm adding to, probably not to be talked about today, but for a future agenda, Stephen's note regarding having a discussion about elections and if that's something that we want in the future. Okay, great.
Sarah, I think my the note was you would put in when we typically meet and when we don't. And I thought that there's that November meeting that we've been holding at the end of that.
That I do need, and then yes, also adding that we have, it's actually 9 meetings every year.
Yes, that's right.
Great. Okay. And so yeah, anyone have anything they want to share?
I have a suggestion for the tone.
Yeah.
For example, I printed it out because I can't remember stuff. Like number 2 in section B, it says committee members must meet the following criteria. Now, to me, that sounds like something in my agency's personnel handbook. And that's a paid position with rigid requirements that I have to meet to keep my job. This is not a paid position, and I don't feel like there should be such rigid requirements because we are all doing this because we love the garden, we want to help, we don't expect compensation, extra compensation in the joy of gardening, and I don't need more pressure. When I read this, I felt like, oh, I can't do this anymore. But then I talked myself out of that and said, no, well, maybe, it's open for discussion. I shouldn't just give up. Instead of saying must meet, how about it is suggested that committee members meet the following, instead of criteria, which sounds like rules, guidelines. So, I mean, if rules like this or criteria, then there's got to be consequences if we don't follow the rules, quote unquote. Now, I'm feeling like those kind of rules have to be for things like weeds and like the physical garden stuff that's neglect on one gardener's part, it impacts other gardeners around them. So that's harmful. If I miss a meeting and I forget to tell you, that's not really hurting anybody. I mean, the information I have is not that vital to the current operation of the garden. In the beginning of the season, it's a little more important, but I can always email committee members if I miss a meeting unexpectedly. I don't always know 24 hours in advance that I'm not going to make the meeting. I have a big family. I have a lot of commitments. And like today, I had to rush back because I had a health appointment at 5 o'clock. and I didn't realize it was the day of the garden committee, but otherwise I have to wait another month. You know how health appointments go, you have to take them when they're available. It's okay, I made it, but just this tone, like committee members are entitled and responsible for, I feel like it just reminds me too much of this personnel handbook, that for a job I'm being paid for. And I think if we make the tone a little gentler, I mean, maybe I'm way out of line here and I don't know what I'm talking about, but this really struck a chord in me, like, no, I can't do this. I can't have another responsibility that is so rigid and confining. One of the reasons I joined this garden and stayed is because everyone was so friendly and inviting, and it wasn't as rigid as the Northampton garden, which needs to be more rigid because it's so big. And I understand, but they got a very nasty nickname after they instituted all these rules. And a few people dropped out because they didn't want to deal with it. It's one of the things that pushed me away, because everyone here is friendly and welcoming and progressive, and we can talk about these things without getting our egos involved. You know, it's like, you don't get defensive when I tell you these things. I try not to get defensive when I hear other stuff that I don't agree with. So I would like to have this communicated in a way that doesn't, I mean, and if it's hitting me that way, maybe it's hitting other people that way too. I don't know. And it took some guts for me to put it in writing, because I didn't want to step on any toes or hurt anybody's feelings. But I'm at the point in my life where if I don't say what I mean now, it's never going to happen. You know, I need to express it. Stephen, you seem to want to say something?
Yeah, Stephen.
I can be quiet for a minute.
Oh, Stephen, you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's just, Margie, you know, I would totally agree with you if what we were talking about was how things were implemented, you know, like army style versus consensual style, etc. I do think, and I do think we need, and I want to thank Sarah for at least, I mean, you need to, at some point in time, you need to have things written up as precise as possible. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for, so that there isn't really like a kind of a document that people can interpret 100 different ways, because then it's contrary to the whole purpose of it. So now I hear what you're saying. When it's precise, then it seems to carry a certain tone, and that tone. But the tone is really about the intent and how it ultimately is executed. And in that regard, I think we maintain something that I suspect is quite different, perhaps, than some other community gardens. And I know that you've had an experience in Northampton. So I just wanted to say, I thank Sarah for the effort, and just remember that the purpose here is to try to draft something that is accurately and succinctly sets out rules. Not to say that it's then kind of a pounded in with a hammer. So that was the only distinction, Margie. I think we should have a little bit more lenience for the writing as such, and just make sure that we maintain our grace and gratitude as we apply them. So I just thought it was a good start. I look at it like a parallel to, like, if you're building a house, you need to start off with a blueprint, right? The blueprint has to be pretty exact. Otherwise, there really won't be much of a house. You may build it in various ways, but you got to have at least a foundation in that regard. So there's my analogy for the day.
Yes, but I hear you, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm not implying that you need to have it so open to interpretation that it doesn't make any sense. A house is yeah, we need a blueprint, but we're not houses. We're beings with emotions and feelings. And I thought that if I read this as someone who wasn't on the committee, I don't know that I'd want to join the committee because it seems very rigid. So and all of us here, we know each other. We know, I mean, I pretty much know that if I forget to email Sarah that I'm not coming, I'm not going to get fired, you know, but other people might not realize that. So to me, it's just not inviting. We already don't have a whole lot of people wanting to run for chairperson, or I want to do the outreach instead of you, or I want to take over the operations. There's not a whole lot of, I've been putting out emails as long as I've been here about please join the committee, please join the committee. And I think maybe 2 or 3 people in all those years have joined. So we need to make this inviting also. I mean, not just for me, but for other people who might want to join us, but are a little bit put off by volunteering for this. Why are there so many conditions? Maybe conditions is a better word than rules. But I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, Stephen. I think it should be precise, but precise doesn't have to mean severe.
Any other comments? Well, I have a couple questions. I feel like the tone, I'm totally happy to rework, and we can focus on that the next governance meeting and then send kind of a redraft. I already worked on some of it just with that one line you brought up, changing it from committee members must, and I shifted it to committee members are those individuals who, and so then it's a list of those 4 things. I guess, want to transition into like what governance is really talking about, or what we talked a lot about Sunday and the meeting before, was just trying to make it clear who is a committee member and who isn't, because we have some people who come to meetings who aren't in our email group, basically. And so trying to make it clearer for me when I'm trying to make sure we're about to do a vote over email, or if we're about to do a vote here, that I know like whose votes count versus who is here just as a gardener participating, but not trying to be involved in all of the emailing, all of the decisions. So
for a minute, somebody has some background noise coming through.
There is some strange one.
And if you could please mute your, I'm having trouble hearing.
It'd be nice if everybody muted except for Margie and whoever's talking and Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I started doing the muting thing too because I have cats, and anyways, yes, good practice. Mute when you're not talking. But I do want people to talk. So the tone we'll work on at the next meeting. Which I'll say the date here in a second once I open my planner. But I guess as far as the content, is there in particular, if people had time to read through, was there anything you're like, I don't like that being a standard for the being on the committee, or like, yeah, anything that jumped out that you're like, that's not what the secretary does, or etc. Margie.
6 out of 8. I guess that would be. Would you change that to 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm even down to do 5 out of 9. Honestly, I think
that sounds better to me. 5 out of 9.
Cool.
Because we can, if we can't attend certain, maybe a number of meetings, we are creative enough to make that up. Like we can gather the information we would have shared at a meeting and send it to everybody. Or I would be willing to do extra work if I missed more than the allotted number of meetings, the required number of meetings. 6 out of 8 sounded, I mean, people get sick, we're volunteering. And there's another thing, that I'm wondering about. Maybe because you stated you wanted to make it clear what committee members and not just people who attend meetings. But I was wondering, number 3, community members are entitled and responsible for voting on motions at meetings and to email votes regarding emergency decisions, etc. It seems to me that some of those are stating the obvious, but maybe that's not so in light of what you just said about making it clear about, you know, delineating, I that's the right word, the difference between attending a few meetings and being an actual committee member. So in light of that, maybe I'm rethinking this, but that's what popped out at me at first. Because Mark, you had sent an email saying something like you felt like rules were only necessary, correct me if I'm wrong, if something in the organization needed to be improved or corrected or something like that. Is that what you meant, Mark?
Yeah, in general, we don't want to be so burdened by rules that, we just get lost in the whole thing and it gets to be oppressive. But if there's a good reason for it, by all means, let's have a rule.
So I was just wondering if there was a reason for this, because it seemed like obvious. It seemed like, well, that's what you do when you're on a committee. But, since you mentioned that, as I said, I can see maybe we need to clarify that a little bit by adding something like, all are welcome to attend as many meetings as they like, and actual committee members are expected and entitled to what you say here.
Okay, cool. I like that.
That maybe makes it clear that there's a difference, because I think that's a good point, because suddenly I'm emailing committee members and wondering, gee, that person was at that meeting making all these decisions with us. Are they now a member? So that wasn't clear to me even. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think oh, Ted, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to put it in, I know with our condo association, all of us are invited to attend meetings of the board. Okay, but we are non-voting members, but to express our concerns and to hear what is going on. And so an invitation to all gardeners to attend a meeting of the governing board or committee.
And I put that in almost all my emails. I don't think I did the last time, but I had been putting that in all emails. But maybe that should be included in this too.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Mark?
Yeah, I don't know if I thought I read pretty clearly the governance updates, but I wondered if there was any part with regard to committee members, any limit on how many members are on the committee. Is there any thought about that, or is it indefinite? As many people who want to be on can be on? What's the procedure for that? Or maybe it was there and I just forgot.
No, that's not something we talked about. Because I think the reason it got brought up one time when we were talking about a lot of this was us trying to navigate how the decisions around Kathy's project and our discussions and voting around that kind of brought up like what to do, and we're really kind of at an indecision point and having to make votes over email, right? So we were kind of like, well, how do we make that more clear if something like this happens again? And like the plot, we never reached a 100% agreement on what to do about the plot with the 2 gardeners who don't live in Easthampton, or the 1 gardener who doesn't live in Easthampton. We never reached a unanimous vote, right? So we were like, well, what does that mean? So this was the attempt to kind of look at that and say, well, who gets to vote? Who is emailing? And And because we decided we don't need everyone in agreement vote, that maybe it is just majority, but that we make sure every single person's dissent versus, good to go versus like neutral comment is included. It became less that we need like a certain number of people on the committee because we're not worried about a 3/5 majority or anything like that. So it can just, as long as it's a majority. But
So how does one, go ahead.
but we can definitely add that. And then that's what the committee members, like the 4 points of like what makes you a committee member. The first thing is just that you are a gardener or were a gardener, because some people don't have plots anymore but are still on the committee, and that you just agree that you want to be. So those are 2, and then the others were that you participate either in a committee of some kind, be it one of the ad hoc things or one of the more like essential.
What is ad hoc, please? I'm not sure.
Ad hoc kind of means it's like and I can add that to like the definition of ad hoc is something that isn't required for the garden to function, but is something that, because like the pollinator garden, Karen was like, it's not needed, but it is something she runs and that she is responsible for and that she updates us on. And same with the donation garden. Like, it's like we talked about it, it can go either way. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, so just to go back on the committee membership, is there any statement or should there be a statement of how one becomes a committee member? If we're not,
that's what those 4 points are.
So if somebody says, I want to be a committee member, does it get reviewed then? I mean, what is the decision-making process that brings somebody on board? Or is it a self-decision? I'm going to be on the committee. I've decided I want to be. I think that should be made clear.
Yeah, so this this is just sort of based on what we've been doing, is that it's just somebody who says they're on the committee is how it's worked here in the past. None of us had to do anything. So we have that it's a current gardener or former gardener, that they agreed to be a committee member. And then I thought what we could add to that is just a formal, motion vote like we do for other things. So that way it's in the notes. And then the other 2 requirements are that you could attend 5 out of 9 meetings, which we just adjusted, and then participates either in an executive function, in an executive position, or on an ad hoc project in some way.
Okay, I think this still needs clarification. So what I'm going to suggest is that at some point that it be made clear to all gardeners that they're welcome to join the committee, and if they want to be a member of the committee, to let you, the chairperson, know that, so that there's a procedure for how that happens, how they become, and there's no confusion, because somebody may attend a committee meeting but they're not necessarily a member. I really think there needs some clarification there.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Adding a procedure to this.
Yeah, I mean, just to notify gardeners, say at the beginning of the season or whatever.
Yeah.
We elucidate that we have a committee and we get together monthly and we make decisions and we talk, and anybody's willing to join the committee and to be a voting member, but to do so they should contact you, the chairperson, and make that known.
Cool.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I love that. Margie?
I just want to address the point Mark had asked, is there a certain number of people that, I want to say, I think we need all the people who want to join, everyone who wants to. And if there's ever a problem, like, I don't know if everyone was here, she wasn't a committee member, but she was a very difficult gardener to deal with. Frank, I know you remember the person, I don't want to name names, who wanted the path at the other end of the garden from the parking lot, who claimed she had a disability, and she was really difficult to deal with. And because I think we denied so many of her requests, she just quit the garden. And if that would come up in a committee member, if someone who's really difficult, we could always deal with that. But meanwhile, she's the only one in the years I've been here who's been that difficult. I don't know if anybody else has experience with difficult people in this situation, but at one point, I think we had 4 or 5 of us on the committee, and it was getting a little overwhelming. Frank, you must remember that. I don't know, Mark, maybe you were.
Whoops.
Sorry, Margie. Our awesome. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Yeah.
Oh, me.
Well, anyway, that's all I wanted to say, that I think as many people as possible would be great. Even if everybody wanted to be a committee member, it would lighten the load for all of us. It would be more work in some ways because we have to figure it all out, but I think it would be great.
All right, Norman?
I think the distinction of being a committee member and a voting committee member is really important. I think the voting committee member has more responsibility and is expected to do more. But I'm aware that I haven't attended any of the little committees because I didn't think I was a committee member. I mean, I'm a garden committee member, but this isn't the kind of committees you're talking about. You're talking about executive committees, correct?
No, we're talking about everyone here. So I would say you're one of the people who comes to meetings who would be a person I would ask. So Norman, you are a gardener. You come to 5 out of the 9 meetings. You participate in, you aren't officially on any of the ad hoc or executive projects right now, but you have been part of the pollinator garden in the past. And this would be a moment where you could say, would you like to be a formal committee member, which means being included in emails and your vote counting? And then we could do you could say yes or no, could do a motion on that and vote. And then you would be on the email list when we're dealing with things outside of meetings. So that would be an example.
That's all. That's a good explanation. I think maybe that should be in writing.
Cool. I'll just make that more blatant, like Mark said, like that process being written down.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Ted?
I think committee members should have some kind of responsibility. Sometimes some of us feel that maybe it's overwhelming. Maybe there should be more positions, but I just see committee members being a little bit more invested in assuming responsibilities for how the garden operates and is managed, as opposed to just drop in and get a vote every once in a while without having any particular responsibility. And maybe some of the things that people do can be divided up a little bit more to get more people involved. But I always consider committee members being those who have a responsibility. They report to the committee. They're involved in the decision making. They're more invested. I think that group is the voting group. I think the overall garden, when they're invited, if they have concerns, can come to a meeting, voice their concerns, but you leave it to your designated representatives, in a sense, the people who have assumed the responsibilities, to make the final decision. But those people should also have the opportunity to hear everybody. I don't know if that's clear enough.
I like that. It's also making me feel like adding a note to say, committee members are expected to like hear the general gardener's opinion, or just make sure we're listening, that it's not just like what we say, like maybe adding something like that in there makes sense to me. Any other, oh yeah, Margie. You are muted.
Sorry. There's already a provision in here that says to be a committee member, you have to participate in an executive position or ad hoc project. So that's already what you said partially, and anyway, it's already covered in this. You can't just drop in and be considered a voting member if you're not taking on an extra responsibility. So I think that part is covered, but the other part sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. I'm going to add that as a note right now. Any other comments on the membership, committee membership aspect of this? Cool. I am going to ask a couple questions. Oh, Mark, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it just occurred to me, just vis-a-vis what Margie said, that if, and Ted said, basically, that if you're a committee member, you need to have a job, so to speak, some level of responsibility. So again, going back to my suggestion, it says people can self-designate that they want to be a committee member, but when that happens, who decides what their job will be? Do they come to be a committee member with a job in mind, or do we assign them? Does the so-called executive committee assign them? How does that work? Just to clarify.
I like that. I think if I'm gonna, most of this, I feel like we should base off what we've been doing, which is that people self-identify. Like Mark, I feel like you were like, I'm doing donation garden, and then if like the following year was like, I'm gonna do operations now. But we can discuss that more at the next governance meeting when we think about that. Margie?
Well, I think both, because a person who wants to join might have something in mind, and it might be something we need or something that they can help with. But if they don't have anything in mind, maybe we can come up with something that they might agree to do. So maybe both, have like a backup.
Yeah, I love that. Just say like, well, we can figure out the wordage on that, but how they decide what their job is. Well,
be the thistle master.
Yeah, thistle master. That was Deb for a second.
Yay.
All right. Okay, cool. So I do just want to ask, and I don't want us to run too long here. So really quick, Stephen, I made the document something that everyone can comment on, I'm pretty sure. So Stephen, if you could comment on the exact process for getting the water turned off and on. So that's in there. Like, who do we call, what year, all that information. So that way, I don't know, if anything happens, we can look at that. And then Eric, if you can add, there's a little section under secretary, the exact method for when you get the agenda, who do you send it to? How do you format getting this magic little link and all that stuff? Because I don't know how to do that. And I would like that to also be documented somewhere. And then if anyone who already has position, everyone who has positions, please go through and look what I just generally wrote about what you do and edit it and say, like, that's not what I do. And then we'll retype it at the next governance meeting. Any comments on that before I say my last question, and then we'll move on? Yeah, Margie.
I don't know if this is relevant to that, but Sarah, you emailed me today that you needed that verification code to get in. So we need to address that, because that's not. That's not good.
I'm hoping I thought we turned it off. So I'm so mad. Yeah. So we need to figure that out. I'll put that in there. The drive is sort of a separate issue that I do hope we'll talk. I just had a meeting to try to learn how to use Google Drive better today with someone. So that's why I was frantically like, I can't get into her email and I'm at this meeting so that I can learn how to deal with it. This is so annoying. So maybe I'll add that to as like another governance thing, is how the fuck does, and we'll frame it just like that. How the fuck does the drive work to get that more organized? But I'll add a note right now because I don't actually have that on I'll add that as a section. All right, the drive functioning. Okay. All right, the last thing I wanted to ask, and everyone think about it. This is not final. We'll redraft this a couple, as many times as we need, and then we can vote on it. And then we'll move on to the next section. But the last question I had was, Karen had a really good idea that at the beginning of the year, everyone who's on the committee says what they want to do that year and what their expectations for themselves are. So that way we can see what we're missing. So like this year, there was a lot of, it's made me sad. I feel like everyone's got some tragedy or like tough stuff. It's like tough stuff is going on this year. So at the beginning of the season, people being able to say, hey, I'm like a little overwhelmed this year, so I'm only going to be able to do this much. We need to figure out how to fill that gap, right? I do feel like what Stephen brought up is that could equally be as useful to do at the end of the year, so that we know going in, so that we have the winter to think about that. So does that sort of feel good to include still, like statement of your personal statement of expectations, I think is how Karen, how did we say it? Yes, Eric.
In our company, when we have a project over a goal stated like that, we'll do the goal, and then at the end of the goal period, we'll have a post-mortem, which is kind of a reflection on how that went. So at the end of the year, I don't know if we want to restate new goals or if we would be more helpful to have a post-mortem at the end of the year.
I like framing it as goals too. That feels good because like expectations can be. And then Stephen, I think you're him.
My point about that last meeting is that in November we get to do a retrospective of the year. So it's a good time to do it. We've kind of completed a season. But the other part of it is that, we do certain things like, I think, make sure our officers are elected and are in place so that we don't start the next year kind of scampering, and that it's set. But to what you were saying, Sarah, about where people are at and reporting that and giving us a sense of what we may need to fill in more, I think that that's totally appropriate to do at our first meeting. So in other words, get things in place so that we leave in November with everything intact, and then come March with where people are at, how do they want, what goals do they, are they setting for that? So it's really two parts.
That makes sense, making it two parts. I like that. Okay, cool. So those are goals, and so I have that noted. Okay, awesome. Great. Any other questions about comments, last minute things, and then we can, before we move on. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'm really excited. I'm also really glad we can talk about stuff. Yeah, Margie.
I just want to be sure because what I wrote down here for the notes that I'm sending out, I only have about the weeds. Is there something else? And the mantis tiller. Is there something else that anybody wants me to put in the
Not
notes?
done with the meeting yet. Sorry, I have 2 more agenda items.
Oh,
so
sorry.
No, you're good. We're just done with the governance shit stuff. I've got a foul mouth this evening. I apologize. I just wanted to note when the God, did I not write where? Okay, so the next governance meeting we were going to have is going to be Sunday, July 27th at 3 p.m. And we just, our new community space is the Brass Cat, which Karen and I sat at, and we didn't drink any alcohol. They just let us sit there and talk. So I don't think it's Wi-Fi, so it might, I have a hotspot. So actually it's gonna be great. We can still work on my computer. So July 27th at 3 o'clock at the Brass Cat for the next, we'll just rework that section. Cool, thanks guys so much. That was awesome. I really struggle to have conversations over Zoom. So I really appreciate everyone's patience with me also, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like a little alien in these little boxes. But the next thing is just our old and continuing business, which was the jumping worms and the mulch. And I'll try to make this quick so that, because I know Mark has to leave and I don't like our meetings being too long. So the jumping worms and the mulch, Christine brought up that they're pretty bad. And I actually even discovered how bad they are myself and was a little disturbed by it because those worms really freak me out. I am feeling like it's too much to take on for this next work day to manage trying to spread that mulch out thin and cover it with a tarp and heat it up. Like that sounds like way too much to try to do on Sunday. So I got another order of mulch ordered, and I'm going to meet with him where to put it that's not with that mulch on Saturday. So unfortunately, we're going to keep losing parking spaces, but hopefully we'll use up all the mulch at the workday and it won't take up that much space. Yes, Margie.
Solarizing new mulch will not eliminate the jumping worms
Okay.
that are already in the garden. They're here to stay until nature takes care of them. And what I have found, because I've been dealing with them for several years in my backyard and in the Northampton garden, the only thing you need to be sure to do is to keep amending the soil, because the only thing they do is deplete the soil. Sometimes they loosen the soil around the roots so that if there's a lot of rain, especially flowers might tip over. So you just have to, they're here, we have to live with them. There's no escaping them anymore. So we have to be sure to amend the soil, keep adding nutrients, and pack in around the roots if you notice that the roots are showing or if it's a little loose. But solarizing new wood chips is not going to take them out of the garden. And as soon as we put those new wood chips down, the worms love the wood chips. They're going to start moving into those wood chips too. I mean, what I've been doing in my D5 plot, every time I see them, I take them out and toss them into the field because I'm sick and tired of killing things. I don't want to kill them anymore. But they're not going to find their way back from the field if I throw them in there far enough. You can also put them in a bucket, in a jar of water. It's a good idea to take them out when you see them, but we're not going to get rid of them. If everyone in the garden solarized their plot in April by putting plastic over it, it might reduce the numbers greatly. But that's a ridiculously high expectation. So I don't think we should worry about them anymore. We should just learn to live with them. And I was freaked out completely when I first saw them, Sarah, but now I won't pick them up with my bare hands, but I will pick them up with a glove on. They are creepy.
They really are.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's disturbing, but just bury that feeling deep down. Well, I guess, can I ask, is anyone opposed to, I'm feeling, I would love for this mulch that we put down on the thistle to be as worm-free as it can be. So is anyone opposed to me having this delivery on Saturday go on sort of near where the topsoil delivery went? So it is taking up one spot, but hopefully we'll use a lot of it up. Yeah, Frank.
I don't think we have any tarps up there, or I don't know if we even have rolls of plastic left, but if we just put something down, a barrier underneath it, especially if it's all going to get used, if we have some kind of barrier beneath it, then that would probably mitigate the worms until there's some kind of a break or leak in the tarp or plastic. But if we have that, then that'll be some type of a prophylactic against them, because they suck. They're in my garden at home now, and I just throw them in the street. I am not tired of killing them yet. So, and I actually put them in a container and just left them there, and it was about 3 inches tall. They were all gone the next day, and I don't think they were eaten. I think they got out.
They crawl out of water also, they crawled out of a bucket with 5 inches of water in it. I had to keep knocking them back in. And you have to close the container so they don't get out.
I mean, if you had a cup with rubbing alcohol, that would do the trick. Just drop them in there, and that would be the end of them. But yeah, I think if we get back to the mulch delivery, if we just put some barrier down underneath it, and it should. I wish we had been able to do that with the last compost delivery, actually, because we're going to lose some of that compost just with grass growing up through it. But I think that would probably do the trick.
I'm going to note that for the compost, because that is really smart. And I'm going to note if we can get that done with the wood chips, and Mark. And then Norman. Mark first.
Yeah. When I ordered the topsoil, I only had orders for 4 yards. So there's quite a bit left there, I should say. People want to help themselves. I've been using some of it myself, but originally we had decided to use that space that was a parking space there. So we want to kind of get rid of that sometime soon and get all that topsoil out of there so we can retrieve the parking space.
I'll try to make sure I email. Sorry, I'll try to make sure I email Karen to see how much more she needs, so that we're not digging into the pollinator portion.
Well, like I say, there's an extra yard left that was not purchased. So essentially I purchased it, but I'm happy to donate whatever's not being used now.
Well, thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah.
I much appreciate it. Margie, what were you saying? I'm sorry. Oh, no, you're muted.
Sorry. Should I not put that in the notes? Should I wait till?
No. If there's a whole extra yard, go ahead and put it in there. I don't think there's any way Karen would need that much more. And maybe we can try to use some of it to help some gardeners on Sunday if some of these weed plots end up needing help. Norman.
Would cardboard work underneath the pile? It's got to be plastic or tarps. Okay.
Just because the worms can eat vegetal stuff, and probably
hopefully,
ideally they can't get through plastic, but I don't know.
If it was only going to be like a week or something, yeah, but then what if it starts raining and we can't work or whatever? So
yeah. Right.
I would go with plastic.
All right, well, I'll look up. We do have some still in there that Stephen had bought to cover some plots last year, so we can use that. I don't think I'll be able to get that laid down by Saturday personally, but worst comes to worst, I'll have the mulch put on a parking spot near there. And if part of the workday we end up needing to shovel it onto the tarp, we can, or the plastic, we can do that.
I don't understand.
What was that? Yeah, Margie, go for it.
I don't understand something. So are there some plots that do not have the jumping worms?
I don't think mine does. I hadn't seen them like that before.
Because I only see them when I really dig in, like when I'm planting something.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess. What about other people?
Plots? Because they're covered with all the wood chips.
Don't seem to have them, but we will be digging deep on Sunday in the remaining section, so that will be how we tell. Yeah. But does anyone else have them in their plot, just for out of curiosity? No. All right. Ryan does have them. Okay. All right. Well, then that probably means they're just like maybe hit like they are. I don't know. It's hard. I do think we're just gonna have to live with them. I'm hesitant to just spread them around since I saw just scooping up. I kicked the mulch to show a new gardener the mulch, and 2 jumping worms jumped out, and I was like, that's horrifying. So, you know, I guess just
They
at
don't,
least for what?
they don't like diatomaceous earth.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's right.
They don't like it. So if we maybe we buy a bag of that,
Yeah.
if they have it at the feed store, and then people can just amend their soil with it, and at least put it around the soil right beside the plants. If you're putting in individual plants, for example, that would help probably, because Margie's right. They'll get in there and loosen everything up. They suck.
And coffee grounds and used tea leaves, black tea leaves.
I don't know, man. I got a lot of coffee grounds in my compost pile at home before I throw them in my tumbler, and they're in it, man. I mean, my compost smells a little like coffee sometimes. So I don't know. Yeah, they suck.
All right. Well, I like all these ideas. I feel like maybe, well, I'm gonna try out the plastic or in with the workday, and then maybe do some research on how much the diatomaceous earth, I said it, I don't know if I said that right. How much that costs, and we can work with Ted maybe at the next meeting and talk with the budget and just get some of that in the shed and advise gardeners to use that. I will say, Margie, if you can, part of your notes, just say for now, emphasize there are jumping worms in the mulch pile. And for people to not use it until further notice. And then after the workday, if I see if we're able to put the plastic down and kind of put the mulch on top that we don't use, then we'll send out another email that says use the mulch that's on top of the tarp. But for now, just say don't use that mulch would be good.
What about if they're already in there, like my garden? I was planning on putting some wood chips down tomorrow.
I mean,
and it's already full of them in one of the plots.
And I wouldn't worry about it. I guess maybe instead of, if we want to frame it instead of saying do not, just say like, advisably don't. There are tons of jumping worms. Because I feel like, if you're feeling overwhelmed by them already, it's like, what's the point? Okay, cool. So that is the jumping worms conversation, and we will pick it up again next time. And the new business, I just want, oh yeah, wait.
Yeah, hi, it's Christine.
Yeah.
It's not just the jumping worms, which might almost be worse, are the weeds.
Yeah.
And from that pile. And I email you a whole list of what's there, and I'm seeing that in the main path, the mulched paths. There's bittersweet, there's Virginia creeper, there's even, the most of them are tiny right now, but most people don't know what the roots look like of those invasives, and they just like, oh, that's part of the mulch. It's not. And that pile that we have, the weeds are probably worse than the jumping worms. There's a lot of jumping worms. Okay, that happens. But, bringing in wheelbarrows full of invasive thugs is also a problem. And if you can show people like what the roots look like, then you're good. But I mean, we cruise by the mulched paths all the time and just pull out invasives.
Yeah.
And they're coming from that pile. Everyone's welcome to use them, sure, but you got to keep on top of them. And I
Yeah,
know
that makes sense.
Margie, you're there every other day. You're definitely on top of them, but other people aren't. And if there's like a path maker that's going to be throwing that old mulch around our plots, you know, I would like a heads up and say like, no, I think I'll do it myself.
That makes sense. That makes sense, Margie.
And wait, I mean, I've got certain places where they're cardboard ready for new mulch. I just don't want the woody vine and everything else that's in there. I don't like finding wild rose in the mulch paths. So it's a twofold thing, not just the worms, but the invasive. And I just
makes a
wanted
lot
to
of
make
sense.
And I just want to make clear, is that the new mulch pile, is that going to be for everyone, or are you just going to dump it all in the thistle plot?
No, it's for everyone. It's just we need wood chips for this thistle project Sunday, so that's why I'm getting a fresh
Yeah,
dump.
why doesn't the truck just dump it right in the thistle patch?
I don't know if he can get down there. I mean, God, if he could, that would be great. I'll talk to him Saturday. I guess it's such a steep slant, and then you kind of have to navigate around the gardens that are in front of the thistle plot.
Yeah,
I
well,
just
it's
imagine
worth
it's a big,
asking.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll just see, because that would be, I don't want to wheelbarrow that stuff down. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And
All
thanks,
right.
Christopher.
So that's all I had to say, you know, like to point out that the weeds are probably worse than the jumping worms.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
some bittersweet root would be, it's pretty identifiable. So hopefully we can show people that. Margie,
Well,
sorry.
you know, if it's a woody, I mean, there's also Japanese bindweed in there. If it's a white root or a woody root or an orange root, it's not a good one. There shouldn't be any root at all. Also in the compost or the topsoil. And I know for a fact that people who have put down topsoil, the current batch of topsoil, there's bindweed in it. It's right in wherever where the pollinator garden, the new plot, the new beds that are there. The only thing that's growing there is bindweed. It's very small, but it's there. I left it there, you know, so people could take note of it. So those are things to watch out for. It's a lot.
Awesome.
All right.
It is a lot, but it's good to know. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. All right. I'm gonna
Margie?
mute.
I just want to say that I've been using wood chips for years, and I have virtually no weeds in my garden. I think that you know, once in a while a little weed comes, and I'm not out there every other day. I probably don't weed as much as even once a week, which I know is more than some folks, but maybe I'm just lucky because, you know, and also when I do see weird looking sticks, I throw them out. I don't shovel it in. I use my hands and put it in a bucket, so I'm watching everything that goes in there. And for me, the jumping worms are way worse than the weeds. I mean, there's so many jumping worms and hardly any weeds. So maybe people can be kind of educated about how to use the wood chips too, because I don't think we're ever going to get a tree service that can guarantee that there's not going to be any invasive plants or roots or whatever in what they bring us, because they just chop it all down and they need to dump it. I've had the tree service call me and say, "Oh, we have your number from before. Is it okay if we dump a load there? We need to dump it somewhere." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's great. Sure." This was a few years ago. And it seemed fine at the time, and everybody was happy to have more wood chips, but I don't know if we can expect a tree service to deliver something that pure, let me say.
It's Christine again. I'll tell you, I work with a couple of tree services, and if you ask them, they will be upfront with you, you know, and I'll see them, you know, my buddies from Bartlett on the street and say, you know, I can use some wood chips because I saw them using cedar, and they're like, we pulled down a lot of Bradford pear today. You don't want this. So you can ask them point blank, you know, if there's Bradford pear in it or what it is.
I did ask one time, a truck came and I happened to be there and we weren't expecting it. And I ran up and I asked him, you know, what he was doing. And I said, like, yeah, you got to put it over there. And I said, by the way, you know, we don't really want wood chips with a lot of weeds, invasive plants, and jumping work. And he said, I don't have any of that in my wood chips. But I don't know. It seems that he did. They were there. Maybe they just didn't know. Maybe you know a service that's better than the ones that I knew about. I got the information from Laura.
No. I mean, every service, you know, takes everything away, but they won't tell you unless you ask.
And I did, and he said, no, not any of that. But he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, and I think also like the Virginia creeper, that's in the current mulch pile. That's probably been there for 100 years. You know, and that's come in through the woods. So maybe that came in on wood chips, maybe not. Who knows? But you know, I've never seen bittersweet in the fields, but I haven't like been going around in the meadow or in the woods there. You can just wonder, you know, it doesn't take much, but you know, you do, if you're aware of what the roots look like and the plants look like, if there's a woody thing growing in a path and you didn't plant it there, it's probably an invasive, you know, and that's just, people just need to know.
Christine, and I think could you put together like a list of the kinds
you know what
stuff
you know what
I'm at the
point. You know what? I'm at the point, you know, like there's some people on the bike path that write down like what in chalk, the invasive, you know, like this is Japanese knotweed, you know, just so people can see or whatever. Maybe it's shaming or whatever, but I think maybe that pink landscaper tape, you know, that they use in nurseries with a, you know, to tie it onto the plant so people could see what it is, to use people's plots that have the invasives in there as a demonstration thing, you know, just so people know. I mean, because most of the time that I'm up there, I'm the only one at the, you know, in the garden, except for you and Margie. And it's not like I can say like, oh, this is such and such and such and such. So, and I don't think people.
What I'm saying, Christine, is if you could put together a list of the plants you just named, I could research photos of them online and send it out to the community and say to beware of these things. That would be the ragweed. I usually do it with ragweed and thistle, and now I'm going to include the multiflora rose.
Yeah.
And I do something like that to it, but I don't remember all the names. So if you just email it to me.
Yeah, I'll be happy to put a list together for you. And if like Liam's been doing like observations this year with different kind of weeds, like is it a weed, is it a wildflower, from its infancy, you know, up till like flowering. And by the time it's flowering, you know, he'll pull it out. If you could find pictures of it in different stages, you know, like ragweed looks really cute and pretty when it's tiny, but then it gets to be overwhelming.
Yeah,
and then what do the roots look like?
I have done that with ragweed and with thistle when it's flowering, but I don't know if I'm going to do that with like 10 different things. My time is also limited.
Yeah, but you know what? But people, you know, if you find a good resource, like wherever you got the ragweed pictures from or whatever university extension service you like, refer people to that, and then they can look at what a milkweed root looks like. And they can find it.
I just go online and find the pictures. I don't go to any service.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, so that sounds good, Christine. If you get Margie a list
Okay.
and Margie, whatever documentation you're able to bring up with that, that'll be really helpful. And then if we need more pictures, we can ask other gardeners. Hey, like if you know what this is, educate your friends, send us a picture. You know, there's lots of people who know this stuff, and there's lots of people who don't. But I do think
Yeah, or
even
yeah,
more just stuff
it's
to put in the
it's
drive. We can just say, this is the drive of the dangerous plant. This is the folder with the dangerous plant pictures.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
All right, I'll add that to the list here. Awesome.
okay. All right. Good night, folks.
Yeah, good night. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Happy 4th.
Yeah, let's celebrate Trump's big ugly bill.
Yes, that's right. His nightmare bill. Which we'll celebrate. Anyway, so really quick, I just want to say the work days on Sunday. Ryan is running it. We're alternating days every month between Saturday and Sunday. We're alternating also which one of us runs it. But I'm gonna come because I have the weekend off. So I will be there Sunday as well with Ryan
What
from
time?
9 a.m. to noon. And we're gonna work on the signs. We're gonna finish the thistle plots, getting those mulched and move the benches and the table over there. And hopefully we'll deal with a little bit of this mulch situation as well. Anybody have anything pressing on their mind that they want to make sure is also on that like to-do list? Great. Okay, awesome. So the next
Sarah,
meeting.
sorry.
Yes, no, Ryan, great.
I was about if we have time and enough people, doing some path weeding and
Path stuff,
management
yeah, okay.
too. I was noticing several paths that just were getting some weed creep and thought that might be a good project for Sunday.
And
And then
actually,
also
I'll
it sounded like
add
there was
weed
maybe
whacker.
some mowing that could
Yeah.
be done if somebody there was up for mowing. Were the only two
Yeah.
other things I was
No, I think that makes sense. I feel like weed whacking we should almost do every work day, just with the edges. Okay. And then Eric?
It's probably a little bit of the contractor paper left for paths.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any cardboard that's been thrown around. Doing the weeding would be great, especially because they've gotten kind of overgrown. Just take the grass whip and just like push it back a little bit. Even if you don't lay down new mulch for the paths, I mean, that'll get done eventually. But if you can just whip back the what's been encroaching on the paths a little bit, that would be very helpful. Because we need to have it 3 feet across when we go to do it with the contractor paper. And if I can't get in there, then the paths don't look good.
Well, and it's amazing. Weed whacking really does a good job keeping stuff down until you can really pull it up. And it kind of kills some of the root system. So it is helpful. So definitely do that. Okay. I love that. And then if we end up needing to help any of these gardeners with their plots, that some of the folks that where it's a little overgrown, like Ryan's, I'm just kidding. We'll help them out. And mine, anyways. Okay. Great. All right. So the next meeting date is August 7th, which makes me so sad. I feel like the summer is over, but that's okay. The next committee meeting is August 7th at 7 p.m. And I'm going to move to end the meeting. Anyone second the motion? Perfect. Lots of people seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Perfect.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.